Andrew, welcome to the basketball podcast.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you obviously having me on. Been watching your stuff for a long time, so I'm excited to be here.
Ditto, been watching your stuff for a long time with the Miami Hoop School and obviously all your work with EYBL and with Columbus. And we're going to talk about all those things. But let's maybe talk about one of these things that I think you've done exceptionally well and others can learn from. And that's transitioning from primarily training into high level coaching. And you've done it exceptionally well. Can you talk about some of the steps that you took to be able to do that?
Yeah, definitely. I think for myself, I just felt like it was a natural transition. And when you're just working and you're doing well and having success and you continue to grow, for some reason, good things start coming at you. So, this opportunity to be able to have the opportunity to coach at Columbus, which I always thought was one of the best schools to coach at in Miami in terms of resources and being able to build the program that I would like to build if I were a coach. So the opportunity came up, and I felt like it was a natural transition for me. I had been training for about 10 years, looking for that next challenge, and I was able to step in. I had done a little bit of coaching before in AAU with younger kids. And when I first got out of college, I helped as an assistant at Miami Senior High, which had been historically one of the top programs in Miami. So I learned some stuff there from a good friend of mine, Marcus Carreño, and just understood how to build a program and get kids to buy in and play hard. So going in, I felt like I had that part, and then I had the player development part. But at the same time, it changes because when you're a coach, you have an expectation for your players, and everyone, no matter what team you're on, everyone falls into a role at some point. Now, do you want those roles to grow and you want the player to grow as a player, of course, but you also want those players to really excel in their role to be able to help your team grow and the individual to grow. I try not to box players in, although once the season starts and you've worked on some stuff over the summer, we're certainly going to allow you to do those things because you have been working on them. For me, I knew I was a good trainer, and when I took the job, everyone was like, he's a good trainer, but he's not. He's not that great of a coach," which was honestly for me it was good because some of it was right. I didn't have a ton of coaching experience, so I had to be better. So I just came in with an open mind and a willingness to learn. Luckily, with some of the connections I had with training NBA guys, I could speak with coaches, understand whether it was X and O's or just talking and communicating with high level players. And my goal was always to have a program that was respected on a national level and then be able to coach great players and help them along their way.
Having spent some time with you, I can attest that obviously mentorship was a big part of your development. Film study was a big part of your development. But I think the most important part that I think coaches can take away that are maybe in this position, whether you're a young coach or a trainer transitioning or trying to learn, is your open-mindedness. You ask great questions.
Yeah.
And that has to have come from somewhere. Where did that come from in your life?
I think that's from my dad. My dad loves asking questions and he loves to conversate. And I'm also interested in how people learn and where they've gained their knowledge from and where they've gained their understanding of the game so that I can build on mine and hopefully make it better. And again, as for me and the staff that I have, we try to be as egoless as possible and try to learn as much and not really care whether someone comes in to help us and oh, why are you letting I don't well if he gives us some good points and it helps our team, that we're all for it, and it helps our players and also helps us as a coaching staff. So I think the open-mindedness and, like you said, the willingness to ask questions, I have no problem asking questions. So I think that, and really, as far as the way your players play for you, when you come professionally and you're ready to work, for the most part, they're going to follow, especially just everyone wants their players to play hard. I know it's been a little more difficult at this time where we think it's actual skill, which I think it is and it isn't. I think it's when you build the trust of your players, they're going to go out and fight for you. And for me, actually, in the last couple of years, I focused more on, I don't know if it's mental coaching or whatever way you want to word it, but really diving into the kids and being able to get to know them, understand how they work, understand how they think so that you can coach them the best way that they need to be coached. I do a lot of research. There's this guy, what's his name? Ledbetter, I think he's called. Yeah, what is it? Winning. What drives winning? he's got a ton of really good stuff on there, specifically being a leader. There was a video there that he posted of that he had been working with Ionescu, what's her name, that plays on the Liberty, I believe,
Yep.
and just some leadership qualities there and getting the guys, if you're going to lead, right? Because there's players that lead, but obviously I'm a leader as a coach, building those relationships so that they're going to go to battle for you because they know you're there for them.
I think it's an important topic because the rise of trainers, and I'd love to get your thoughts on that over the last, say, 20 years, has been mostly positive. Players are getting more opportunities to play more and develop more and all those different things. But
Mm-hmm.
then the transition of a lot of those trainers into coaching, especially AAU and different things like that, there isn't necessarily the same commitment to developing their craft in a coaching sense. And I think you nailed it. One of the biggest things is that a lot of them learn tactics. They learn to run X's and O's in different plays, but the psychology of coaching a team versus the psychology of training an individual player is different. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. I think even in the training, I think what helped me is I was able to, and I know every trainer doesn't always get this opportunity, but I had the opportunity to train high level players, specifically NBA guys, and understand how they operate, how their mind works. Obviously, each of them works differently, but knowing that they're also human beings. I know they're some of the best players in the world, but they're human just like me. They go through their emotions and their thoughts, and sometimes it affects them. So understanding what makes them move and knowing where they're at the moment, I think that really helped me moving into my coaching at Columbus when I started to get high level players coming in, understanding how to coach them, understanding how to speak to them, and how their mind works. Because they're these high level guys, their mind is wired different. They understand the game, and you have to allow them to give their input and show what they're capable of. Even specifically with Cameron Boozer at such a young age, 14 when I started or 13 when I started coaching him. Yeah, he had a lot to learn, but he also brought a lot of knowledge with him and understanding of the game and being able to read the game so quickly at a high level at such a young age. I wanted that part to grow. So instead of saying shut up, you only listen to the coach, it's really allowing him to also be a coach at the same time and giving him some area to lead himself and speak to his players. And I think he's done that really well. But again, I think my transition from training into coaching, they both complemented and helped each other be better. I certainly did change a lot of my training style. Not that I just threw everything out, but I think you have to change it up a little bit and mix it up. And I think it allowed me to become a better trainer because I could see the player in a different light, not just one-on-one on the court. Hey, we're doing this, we're making shots, but also seeing how he reads the game and knowing within the skill that we're helping him, how he can use it within the framework of a team concept, because we could teach all the moves we want and that's great, but that's not necessarily always what skill training is.
Yeah, it's being able to apply the move in a situation that helps them, right? And that's a big part of it. Love that. Obviously, the part about empowering your players and making them active participants in your team. I saw
Yeah.
that when I was there. That's such an important part of this process is the relationship piece. Talk to us a little bit about EYBL and high school coaching and the differences in those two things, because you've been successful at both, which is also somewhat unique.
Yeah, I try to bring the same approach, even though we don't spend as much time. Although my team, I felt like practice pretty consistent in terms of our EYBL team, but still not as much as a high school team would practice. I also believe I had a really special group of kids that allowed me to coach them and allowed me to coach them hard and push them. I think once you get to the highest level teams, the coaching on both teams are very good. And if you do not come prepared, if you do not do your work beforehand, you will have some trouble in those games. So I think it seeing that level in EYBL and things like that. Also, as I built my schedule at Columbus, allowed me to be ready. We started when with this group at Columbus as freshmen, and I had the ability to coach in the EYBL the same year and understand, okay, these not only are the players on the other teams very good, but their coaches are very good as well. And if you don't come ready and prepared and you don't prepare your guys, then you're gonna find yourself most of the time on the losing end. So what I tried to do is have the same exact approach that I approached at Columbus into the EYBL. Even if I didn't get to spend as much time with those kids as I would my high school team, I wanted to try to emulate it the same exact way and understand that each and every time you step on the court, you have to prove it. You have to go out and earn it every time. You just, okay, now I'm this good. Oh, you guys are ranked number one now. No, you have to go and earn that every single time you step on the court, and try to also have them know that, hey, you're going to earn it in practice as well. If we have this same approach and this same competitive drive in practice, it will most certainly carry over in the game. But I just think, again, being able to battle and go up against high level players on the EYBL platform, and then as well at Columbus, is just, it's more about preparation, and not always just scouting the other team, but also preparing your guys to be able to execute and excel at the highest level that they can.
For me, there's a lot of cliches about coaching, say AAU, EYBL, whatever it is. And you obviously attack some of them there, which I agree with, because when I've been around it, coaches are very professional in their approach. Not all of them can have the same access to their players for practice, different things like that, but the intent is always there. The
Mm-hmm.
teams are prepared, there's accountability, and you practice so that you can compete. And then the fourth part, which I think is the most important part that you talked about, is how you prepare your kids mentally to be able to handle all these different circumstances, different matchups, different players, different environments. That's got to be the one big piece that I think a lot of people that haven't been in that space don't understand. So talk to us about that piece particularly. Go a little bit deeper on how do you prepare your players to handle these different environments that they're in.
So I'll give you an example of specifically with our Columbus team recently. We played in City of Palms tournament, which is, in my opinion, maybe the best tournament year in and year out in terms of high school in the country. Obviously, some years maybe not, but I would say, so you're going there, you're going to play against the top teams in the country. And then we left there and we came home for Christmas, and then we left and went to New York. Some people ask me why I make such a strong schedule against such high level teams, and maybe I could do a little bit better job, but I want to prepare them. First of all, for Columbus, our goals are to win state championships and hopefully be invited to Chipotle and win a national championship. But when you get to the Chipotle, you got to play 3-4 really good teams back to back. You're not getting a day break. You're playing 3 in a row. And to stay, not just to understand, to push yourself physically, you have to be mentally tough, right? So for us, preparing mentally, obviously, is certainly the scouting, going over scouting reports, helping kids understand player tendencies and how you will defend and how you make adjustments on the fly. We're going to give you a scouting report, and guess what? So the other coach we may have to make adjustments in the game. And my thing for my guys lately is, hey, things are going to not go our way sometimes or many times in the game. But how are we going to react to it? How are we reacting to that? What I saw recently, what's the coach at Kentucky's name? The new coach
Mark
at
Pope.
Kentucky. Mark Pope. I don't know. I recently just came across, he was speaking in the coach's clinic, and he talked about not looking at the scoreboard and not worrying about what the scoreboard says, but focusing on the flow of the game. You may be down 5 to 10 points, but you're actually playing pretty well. Your shots just may not be falling, but you're getting great shots. And we want to keep those kids in that good mindset and continue to drive that, because if basketball is a game of runs, and eventually most of the time some momentum will go your way and you want to build off of it. And if you already have the flow, which what he talked about, the flow is good, the ball movement is good, eventually good things will start to happen. So I think it's a daily thing, just like personally for myself, when I'm trying to build better habits and characteristics in myself, I got to continue to repeat it to myself. So we're continually speaking to the kids on a daily basis, helping them understand that it's similar on the court in the game is similar to your experiences maybe daily at school. It doesn't always go your way. You didn't do so well on the test. You're really bothered by it, but you have to continue in your day. Your day doesn't just stop. You got to continue. So how do we continue? What do we have to do? Not that you just leave it behind and say, forget about it, because it's still going to bother you. but how do we still function at a high level, even though sometimes chaos is happening? So I think we just talk about it. We say it out loud. We try to create chaos in the practice and create adversity in practice so that when the game comes, we'll do a better job of handling it.
Shifting gears a little bit, I use an expression that young players or young people are not mini adults. To get people to understand that
Right.
training a young person versus an adult is different, or the way you interact with them is different. Similarly, an NBA player, or sorry, a young player is not a mini NBA player. Talk to us about the difference in training an NBA player and developing a young player, because you deal with both. And I think that's a distinction that people need to understand more, is that what you do with an NBA player is not necessarily what you're doing with a young player.
I think a young player, you still want to build and figure out what his skill set is going to look like, what fits him best. That's not to say that an NBA player doesn't add to his skill set, but there's certainly some characteristics of his game that have gotten him this far, right? So you're going to certainly focus on those things with an NBA player and continue to make sure that he's effective and efficient at a high level and that skill set. Whereas with a younger kid, I'm probably going to experiment a little more because I need to figure out what fits him best. What is going to help him excel and be efficient and effective in his own game. You got to, and sometimes it's trial and error. You're giving kids certain things that fit well for one kid and not for another. Every player is different. So you're not necessarily, I want to say sometimes it's similar, sometimes it is different in terms of training an NBA player and a younger player. But like I said, an NBA player certainly does, I hope, at least one thing at the highest level, and that's why they've gotten to where they are.
So in some
And
ways, an NBA player, it's more about refinement of something they already do well, or maintaining something they already do well while peppering in a few maybe other things.
and
Versus a
as
younger
they're
player, it's more macro, more things.
correct. And I also think in terms of an NBA player, if it's a young NBA player, specifically if you look at Tyler Hero's role when he was a rookie and where it is now. And if you could, the amazing thing about him is his commitment to his craft. I got a chance to work with him probably the first three years, maybe 3.5 of the start of his career, and his growth is great. Now, again, he was skilled. He did what he did that got him there in the first couple of years, but every time in the off season, he's continuing to work and add things because of the greatness that he wants to be and the player that he wants to be in this league. Yes, an NBA player is going to refine those skills that they already had, but those great ones are going to enhance them and add more. A younger kid, let's say a middle schooler, we want to continue to experiment what is going to make him a better player. For example, I like the way Dylan Harper's game is, and there are some comparisons to James Harden's game. But if you look at James Harden, where at the same age as Dylan Harper, I think Dylan Harper is a little bit further along in terms of, I think, his skill set, but not just that, his mind and the way he worked and the understanding of who he was. I think James Harden went to the NBA. Then once he moved to Houston, he was like, "Oh, I can actually do all these things, and these people believe I can." I think the younger kids are coming in pretty skilled in terms of raw skill. My hope is that we can do a better job of preparing them in terms of understanding how to read the game with that skill set. I don't think we've failed there. I think we just need to improve there and do a little bit better job. There was this rush of skills training over the last 10 years, right? I could even talk about my career in the beginning and talking to you about how my training has changed. And because you always want to get better. My training was good, but I always felt like, okay, I need to improve. Also, the game changes. So, I think kids are certainly there's a lot more players that have a lot more to their skill set in terms of raw handling the ball, doing things. But I think we need to get back to a little bit more of reading and understanding the game, teaching the game. And I think trainers can do that as well. I don't think we only need to leave it up to the coaches. I think you can create scenarios within your workouts where it'll help them. So, but there's my take on that.
Yeah, and it's simply like early on in your training, it was probably a lot more one on O without decisions and without reads, and then and using some guidance into different things like props and stuff like that, because I know you're brought up a little bit with that stuff.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
now a little bit more about scenario creation and not being afraid to have group workouts instead of just individual workouts. And that's
definitely.
been a big evolution, I think, for a lot of trainers is understanding just what you said, that you are a coach, you're not a trainer, you're a coach, and you
Right.
can help players connect all those things.
I also think if for trainers and coaches wanting to move up in this game and provide value, being able to a trainer and the coach are they go hand in hand because yes, you're coaching your players, but you also want your players to improve and build their skill set and watch their development over time. So those that want to move up to a higher level and continue to do that, I think it's very important to grow both sides, not just one. And again, I'll say it again. When I started coaching, I felt like my training improved. And then when I would go back to training, because I obviously my business is training, and then I also coach at Columbus and EYBL. But when I have little seasons where I go back and forth. When I go back to one, I feel like it enhances the other. So I think it's a continual growth there on both sides. And then when you get the opportunity to go to a high level team, you're providing tons of value.
Absolutely. And another thing that I know that's it's challenge for you to balance is the balance between the individual needs of, say, the elite player and the needs of the team. And you've had to deal with that obviously throughout your EYBL and high school experiences. So share a little bit of that. Say a Cam Boozer, like individually, he wants to get better at this and this, but going inside and scoring helps our team.
Right. And luckily, I think he understands that really well. But if you look at the growth of his game and his ability to play inside and then as well as shoot the ball on the outside and be able to be effective putting the ball on the floor. And then we wanted him to just again, you want a coach to be a good trainer and a coach, but we want our players to be multifaceted as well, right? At the NBA level, yes, they look for specialists, but if players have a bigger skill set and they do multiple things at a high level, that they provide more value. So we want our guys to be able to do many things, not just one. Now, do we want them to be really good at what they're good at? Of course we do, but we want their growth to be building a well-rounded game. Even with Caden Boozer, yes, I want him to play on the perimeter, but sometimes I post him up because he's such a strong guard and he does really well posting up guards. So we take advantage in those areas as well. And also, if you've watched the growth and the maturation of Jackson Richardson, I'm just really excited for him this year because of him buying into the work that he's put in terms of shooting. He had an amazing City of Palms where he just started becoming this well-rounded player that you work on it, 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 and then all of a sudden it starts to show. Everyone wants it to show within 3 weeks. That's not always the case. And I've just been really excited to watch. I think that's one of the most gratifying and fun parts of coaching and training is watching players grow and then watching their success. And then obviously cherry on top is you being able to coach them. I tell my guys a lot. Sometimes I'm coaching you guys, but I'm watching you guys and just watching how hard you guys play and the way you're playing and the way the ball moves and it just looks good. I become a fan sometimes watching my own team because they really do put the work in and then they go to work on the court.
Talk to us more about that challenge of we're working on this, your shot, for example, Jax. We're working on this. You're getting better. We can tell you're getting better in practice, but it hasn't yet transferred completely to the game. And I saw that when I was there, just your encouragement to say, You got to
Yeah.
keep shooting. You just
Yeah.
got to keep shooting. Even though we might have a better decision for our team right now, you need to shoot that shot because it's about your long-term development.
And again, not just his long term, but him shooting that shot helps the team.
No question.
And I think, again, I told you already, repeating things and encouraging over and over, because you can work on your game and your shot, but that individual player eventually has to believe in it. And once it clicks there and he believes, is when it starts to really, obviously it goes like this, but once you start to believe, you start to that increase. You're having your ups and downs, but you're on a steady rise there. And we want to just build confidence there mentally, because again, we talked about earlier, it might be the most important. Obviously, they already have their skill set. It might be the most important where you are mentally in terms of how you see yourself, how you believe in yourself, and how you believe in, specifically with Jackson, his shot that he worked. I couldn't tell you the amount of hours he worked in the offseason on his shot. And we played two of the top teams in the country in IMG, where I think he was 3 for 6. And then I think against Montverde, he was 2 for 3 or 2 for 4. And huge moments of the game that really propelled us to get the W. So, yeah, we want to continue kids to shoot, even specifically Marcellus Jackson that's come to us this year, just encouraging him, hey, you have to start shooting. When you get to the next level, they're going to ask and they're going to want you to shoot threes when you're open. And you got to be able to stand in confidently and take the shot. And that's taking time. But I think, again, repetitiveness and encouraging and telling them over and over, just like anything, I think habits start to build. And not just habits in your form, but habits mentally, where you actually start to believe and understand that you've put the work in and you've done a good job. Now it's you reap the benefits of it.
Confidence comes from proven results, but the challenge of that is getting to proven results requires someone to believe in you, right? Somebody to encourage you, some self-efficacy that transitions it from practice to the court. And that is a huge challenge. So talk
Yeah.
to us again about this mindset training that is so important, whether you're a skills trainer or you're a basketball coach, coaching a team. This
So,
mindset training is everything, isn't it?
yeah, I think it's funny because I was talking to a friend of mine when we were in high school. A lot of times coaches are screaming at you not to shoot or who don't take that shot. And now I'm like begging them to shoot. Like, why aren't you're open? Why don't you shoot it? And again, I think it's where their mindset is for themselves in that moment or what they believe is the right play or whatever. But again, the preparation, everyone thinks the preparation is, oh, let me work out. I'm going to work out. I'm going to work on my shot. But preparation is also mentally, extremely mental in terms of, and some guys prepare for a game where they're quiet and they're focused and they're locked in, and others prepare differently. Others need like stimulation and to get themselves going, and that's how they work. Everyone works different. So we want to encourage whatever works best for each individual player to prepare themselves and get in the right mindset. This is something I focused on a lot lately, even in my own coaching. Forget the player. I prepare myself mentally. I look for ways where obviously I can improve as a coach, but I can improve as a communicator, and all of that takes time. Like I told you, I do a lot of stuff looking up coaches, how they communicate with their players, what they're saying. I used an example with my team yesterday. I said Penny Hardaway at Memphis maybe has his best team this year that he's had. And it's definitely not the most talented team that he's had. He's had teams where he's had tons of talent, but now he has kids that have bought into, hey, sometimes we're going to grind this out. No matter how it goes, we're going to grind. And he's got some really gritty kids there that really fight. I've watched about 3 or 4 games of theirs this year where they're consistently battling. And that's what competition is. It's not always it looking so pretty all the time. Most of the time when you're in high level games, there's many moments that are ugly because both teams are really good and they're doing a good job defensively. Just putting them in the right mindset, preparing mentally, and then having fun. I think things too quickly, and sometimes I think even I have. And I have to take some step backs and allow the kids to really enjoy this and enjoy themselves playing basketball, because that's what the best part of it is, having fun out there, enjoying and doing what you really like.
What are some
So
of those ways that you help them have more fun? Because I think that's such an important
yeah.
point.
So we've done some things where I allow them to be themselves on the court. Some guys score and they run back. Some guys, they want to do a little something. I allow it. Or in practice, we're very serious in practice, but sometimes we have days where we just play dodgeball, or we do other things, or we do things that allow some competition and building camaraderie so that they are having fun. And we also preach that playing hard and playing the right way makes it fun for everybody, because everybody's touching the basketball, the ball is moving, people begin making plays for each other. And I don't care what anyone says, when you're doing things for others and it's everyone doing it, the energy changes.
So thinking a little bit about, I got a chance to embed with you for a game, and I don't think I fully was aware until I started doing some of this stuff, the high stakes environment that these players exist in.
Yeah.
But not just the players, you as a coach as well. And one of the questions I asked you was, how do you personally cope with the emotions of big games, before the games, halftime, and post game? So what are some of the things that you do?
If you talked to me about 3 years ago, I don't think I was handling it great. I don't know if I was handling it bad. I just didn't feel like I was doing a great job of
Very
preparing
common,
myself.
by the way, for new
Yeah.
coaches and
Yeah.
for young coaches.
Yeah. So just being able to, because I think your players read your energy, read your emotion, and just understanding, hey, we're here in these games for a reason. Okay. If we're prepared and we're ready to go, I think at the game that you came to was against Prolific and we ended up losing. We were very well prepared. We just didn't execute our game plan all the way through the game. And they did a better job executing their
And they
game
played
plan than
very
we
well.
did. Correct. And yeah, again, their game plan, they executed very well. We executed our game plan for maybe half the game, whereas they executed theirs for 3/4 of the game. And I think that was the difference there. So after that game, if I say 3, 4 years ago, I would have been like, not good, or now I'm more okay, we lost. The first thing I look at is myself. Was I making the right decisions? Was I putting my players in the right position for us to be successful? And there were moments there in that game where no, I did not. And I go back and figure it out. I think we spoke about it just in terms of they did a great job of doubling Cam, and we wanted to get them in spots where it would make it difficult for them to double. So we went back to work on things like that. And then asking the players to look at themselves, and then everyone going in it together. Again, another game where just a week and a half ago, we were in New York, and my assistant, George, him and I have been working together for such a long time, and we can scream and yell at each other, and it doesn't matter because we're in it for together. But after the game, we looked at each other and we said we have to be better. We weren't good enough that game. So the high stakes I like the pressure, whatever pressure you want to call it. That means you're doing something right. It means we're here for a reason. We didn't just get to these type of games because someone just said, "Hey, let's pick." No, we're there because we're working. We had to build up to this schedule. We couldn't get these games 3.5 years ago. We had to earn them and go get them. So I think for myself, it's just going into the game as how do we improve today? Win or lose, how do we improve? Obviously, we want to win. We're playing to win. And I've won a lot lately, so it's been a lot of fun. But not focusing on the result, but focusing on just what we prepared to do. And I think that's allowed me to stay calmer in bigger games instead of overreacting or having an outburst. I'll save those outbursts for the referees instead of my players. But again, I think understanding why we're here and then going out and executing what we prepared for. And then if we don't, not freaking out, but okay, let's go back and look at it. And sometimes when I'm watching the game, when I'm rewatching the game, it's not fun because you're like, this just doesn't look good. But it allows you to improve because you go back and look at those mistakes or whatever it was, and you find ways to improve or you find ways to adjust. And then I think when you do that in the game, your adjustments become, I don't know if they become easier, but things in a different light, and your adjustments are quicker, and your players even feel it. They see you in a timeout, your energy's fine. Hey, we're going to do this and adjust to this. And they see your confidence, and it bleeds into them, and they're able to adjust themselves on the court.
Absolutely. And another thing that you're involved in, because you need a few more things, Andrew, pre-draft workouts.
Oh, yeah.
So take us through that, because I guess my fascination with pre-draft workouts is always the balance between making them feel good, making them look good, versus actually developing them for their future. How's your approach? Are you just doing it so that they study just to pass the test, or are you helping them for their long-term vision?
For short term, we're only with them for about 2.5 months, which is a good amount of time. And you could do a lot of improvement in 2.5 months. But at the same time, they're in a transition of their career, and we want them, like you said, feeling the best, shooting the best, in the best mindset going into these workouts. That is by far the most important thing, I think, in terms of this short process. Now, can we improve their skill set? Yes. What I like to think of it is, okay, we will improve some things, but let's improve their mentality of, I'm going to get here. I need to continue to improve. It doesn't stop here. It doesn't stop now. You get to the next level, it becomes more difficult. You have to work harder. You have to prepare better. You have to find ways to improve yourself. So in the pre-draft process, which is a lot of fun, by the way, you meet these young guys. Specifically last year is a great group of guys with good character, and it was just a fun group. And you watch them go through the process, and you watch their growth or where they need some growth, and you want to help them in those areas. I think in terms of growth and improvement is more mentally, hey, we're going to this world now. It's not the same as the college world you were in. Maybe some similarities, but it's going to be a lot different. You're going to play more games. You're going to be physically exhausted. So mental preparation, I think, is the most important going in as a rookie. So specifically, number one in pre-draft, they need to be just feeling their best. In those moments where they felt like they were just firing on all cylinders, I want them to feel that way going into every workout. And also understanding, hey, the teams already know that you're good. They're going to put you through scenarios to see how you react. They may not necessarily, for example, Dalton Connect, they're not going to see if he could make shots. He's a shot maker. They're going to put him in scenarios where how will he react to what the adversity comes his way. So again, number one is just making sure that they're feeling their best, and whatever comes their way, they're in terms of skill set and player wise, they're making shots, they're feeling good. Second is mental preparation going into those workouts and understanding that, hey, it's not going to always be about how you play. It's going to be about how you respond. And then third is, hey, how do we improve them in this short period of time? Skill-wise, what they can use, helping them understand, hey, these two things you maybe need to work on. It's probably not going to happen your first 2 or 3 years of your career, but you need to continue to focus on those as you go on. And then as you play, you're going to learn other ways where you need to improve, and you got to continue to grow. So again, I know we keep going back to the mental thing, but it's so big. But
another thing that I know that many coaches have to deal with is balancing family, balancing the commitments of life and all the different things with it. And for you personally, talk about that, but also talk about the fact that you've built a business while you've been doing this, which is also important for supporting your family and supporting the things that you want to do.
yeah, so first of all, I'm lucky because I have a wife who loves basketball. She played basketball in high school. She enjoys watching it. She loves watching our team. So I think I'm extremely lucky there. And then the last couple of years, just doing a better job of when I'm free, really pouring into my kids and being present, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally, and talking with them and seeing where they are and what they love and what they enjoy, and then supporting them in those areas, which again is certainly gotten better, specifically over the last year and a half, 2 years, where I've gotten some help there just with some of my mentors and understanding how to be better in those areas, even though you are a busy person and you do travel and you do these things and it's part of life, but you could still find those spots to really pour into them and pour into your family and still be present. So that's honestly, when you start to do that and seeing the change in your children because of the time that you spend is extremely a joy to watch and gratifying.
Talk to us about building the business. I think 2012 is when you started it. Wait.
Yeah, I think you're right. 2012 was like, I think I was an assistant like 2011. And then my wife got pregnant with our first child. And I took time off and people just started reaching out to me about doing some specific workouts. And I fell in love with the player development, honestly. And I just wanted to be better there. It's funny. I didn't go to grad school, but I used this specific like year and a half, 2 years where all I did was travel around. All I did was travel around to different camps, tried to take in as much knowledge as I can, take as much notes as I can, and work for free at any camp I could find where I felt like there were specific trainers doing it at a high level and that I felt like I learned the most. So when I started doing that and really training some younger kids, showing up to their games and showing that interest, I realized that in the business, yes, you're training basketball players, but when you impact a kid's life, it not only impacts the kids, but the parents are extremely grateful for that. There's some parents that have become really good friends of mine just because of that journey with their child and encouraging them and understanding that, okay, we are working on basketball, but man, it improves the kid's self-esteem, it improves their character, it improves their personality, and they become better and stronger people. So that growth of basketball, I started in a friend's backyard and was just doing privates and then built into small group training. And then eventually I built an academy where you had different options where you can do private workouts, small groups, or a large group workout that was a little more economically easier. Obviously, as you get down to the private ones, it becomes a little bit more pricey if you're doing it on a regular basis. And then building my summer camps. And while doing all that, wanting to always train NBA guys. And the moment that I stopped focusing on, I want to train NBA guys, and the moment I just focused on my craft and focused on building and being the best, it's crazy how, I don't know what happens, but opportunities just show up. And it's like I told you before, I was doing really well in my business. I didn't really think I was going to be a coach. I had built this business over 10 years. Again, I have private, small groups trainings, an academy, summer camps. Then all of a sudden, I'm training NBA guys. Now I'm doing pre-draft. And hey, you want to coach this high school team? And it's, maybe, but I'm not sure. Let me think about this. But man, the business is great. I taught for a little while in the classroom, which was great. It taught me a lot of things, but I knew that's not where I was supposed to be long term. But it certainly gave me a lot of understanding of how I teach kids, specifically in basketball. And then building the business was tough. I had to surround myself with people who were business people, not necessarily basketball people, so that they can help me along the way in growth. And honestly, there's a lot of times where I stop and I take a look back at, it's been like 12 years now, which is so fast. My oldest daughter's 12. I started right about when she was being born, and excited for what's next. Who knows what's next in store here?
Let's talk about that though, because you've expressed it to me, and it's absolutely okay to talk about that here.
Yeah,
That again, there are next level goals for someone like you've achieved so much, you've done it at different levels, you've done it obviously in different ways with the training and the coaching as well. So talk to us about potentially coaching in college or coaching in the NBA and those being goals and working towards that.
yeah. It's funny once you start to put it out there and the relationships you've created. Like I said, I think opportunities will eventually come my way, and hopefully they're
By put it
beneficial.
out there, you mean voicing it
Voice,
into
yeah,
the
voicing like,
universe.
yeah, this is something inside of me that I truly believe that I'd like to do at some point, whether it's the college or the NBA. I think they would be very challenging, but I have the opportunity to sometimes go to mini camps at NBA, and it's the funnest part is that there's so much I can learn. I want to be in these areas where I can soak up all this knowledge. So being able to eventually possibly move up and be a part of a college program or an NBA program would be a dream, would be awesome. I think, at least for me, I've always wanted to be able to surround myself with high level people and be able to coach high level players just from the love of basketball. I still love this high school level, and I'm going to continue to be the best I can be as long as I'm here. But yeah, there's certainly some dreams and aspirations to continue to grow and move up. Obviously, in the new landscape of college, it's becoming more and more similar to professional. It's an area where I like to be in and learn and grow and become a better coach and person and whatever it is that I continue to do.
We know wherever you end up and now in the future, you're going to do a great job supporting the game and supporting kids and
Yeah,
all the different things that you've done. And I know you're very open to the possibilities of what's going to come next. And so much good has come your way. And we really appreciate you sharing the game with us.
no problem. Appreciate you. Thank you for having me on. And other coaches, we had Chris come to our practice and work with our team. And I think it's something that he's got a lot of great stuff. He sat with our coaching staff. We sat with the players. We did stuff on court, just really helping the kids to understand to play the game, not just with sets, but understanding the flow and the spacing. And I think for coaches that are listening, I feel like I'm a great coach. I feel like I do a really good job, but we learned a ton, and we thought the experience of it and the way it impacted our players was tremendous. So if any of you are watching and really want your players to have great opportunities, try to see if you guys can bring Chris in and some of his team, and maybe he'll take me, I don't know, to go help out. But I love to help any way I can as well. If anyone has questions, they can reach out to me also.
At Miami Hoop School is one of the best follows on Instagram, and certainly you can reach out to Andrew there as well. But just search for him online. The website has his email, and he's great as well. But thank you for saying that. It was a wonderful experience to spend time with you and your players, and great times. Thank you,
No
Andrew.
problem. Thank you. Have a good